Welcome back to What You Will Learn. My name is Adam Ashton.
And my name is Adam Jones. Today we're taking you through the best bits of Mindset by Dweck, changing the way you think to fulfill your potential.
One very simple idea in this book, but absolutely vital and important for everyone to know and understand. It's a small distinction in the beliefs you hold about yourself and your own abilities, but it permeates to almost every part of your life.
You may or may not be aware of these mindsets, so hopefully after this episode you're at least conscious of them and you understand what categories you fit into in what part of life, so then you can potentially have a bit of a power to shift it when certain circumstances arise.
So when you're looking at yourself, you adopt one view or the other, and it profoundly affects what you do, how you lead your life, how you achieve in the end. One view is the fixed mindset, and that's a belief that your qualities are carved in stone. Basically, whatever you're born with, that's who you are, that's your ability, that's your potential, that's your level of possible achievement. And what this does, it really creates an urgency to just prove yourself over and over, just to prove how good you are, because this is your level of skill.
So under the fixed mindset, you believe that you've got a certain amount of intelligence, a certain personality, a certain moral character, and there's somewhat fixed traits that you're actually born with, and no matter what you do, you're always going to have the same amount of ability in these kind of areas.
So the people with this mindset, they're all about proving themselves. Every situation, every test, every exam, every time you step up to the plate playing baseball, every time you take a shot is a situation in which you have to prove yourself or be found out as someone who's deficient. So every situation, are you going to succeed or fail? Are you going to look smart or dumb? Are you going to be accepted or rejected? Are you going to be a winner or a loser?
Now, the growth mindset is what you want, because in this mindset, the hand you're dealt with is just really the starting point for your development. So this growth mindset is based on the belief that all your basic qualities are things that you can cultivate through your efforts, your strategies, and your help from others. So the person stepping up to the plate in baseball, yes, it might look silly striking out in front of the whole entire crowd looking stupid, but that's an opportunity to learn and grow, whereas the fixed mindset person won't even bother stepping up to the plate because there's going to be a bit of vulnerability and a bit of failure in the process.
Dweck says here that Charles Darwin and Leo Tolstoy, they were considered just average, ordinary children. Ben Hogan was a world-class golfer. He was uncoordinated when he was a kid. Cindy Sherman, one of the most famous photographers, she failed her first photography class. Actress Geraldine Page, she was told to give up because she had zero talents for acting. Now, all these people, if they had the fixed mindset, they're going to give up because if they've got no talents, no abilities, no way to improve, that's game over. But thankfully, these people had the growth mindset. They realized that was just a reflection of their ability in that point of time. And by taking a bit more effort, applying some practice, gradually improving over time, believing that they can grow and improve, that led them to get to where they became today.
Yep. So this passion of leveling up is really the hallmark of the growth mindset. This is the mindset that allows people to thrive during some of the challenging times of their lives, because every level that's just above you, it's just another challenge that you can take on. So you listening right now, Dwecky's got a few questions for you to really categorize yourself. I think in different areas and different lives and different things, people are growth and fix. I don't think it's one's completely one or the other. But again, something to be mindful of.
So Carol Dweck's got a bit of a test for us here. She sets up a scenario. So just imagine one day you go to a class that's really important to you and that you like a lot. The professor turns with the midterm exam papers to the class and you got a C+. You're obviously very disappointed. On the way back to your car, you find that you've got a parking ticket. You're frustrated about the whole day, so you call your friend to share this experience and you get brushed off. How do you respond to this situation?
Would you react to something along those lines? Like, I'd feel like a total reject. I'm a total failure. I'm an idiot. I'm a loser. I'm worthless and dumb. Everyone's better than me. I'm slime. In other words...
I don't know, though. I'm slime.
Yeah, I'm slime. It's there in the notes.
It is.
I don't know what it means. It's not good, is it? In other words, this thing that wasn't to your expectations in terms of the grade you got is a direct measure of your own competence and worth. You completely correlate the two.
So this is obviously the responses of someone with the fixed mindset. And if you were to ask them, how are you going to respond to these setbacks? Maybe they'd do nothing. They'd sit in bed. They'd get drunk. They'd eat chocolate. They'd yell at someone. They'd pick a fight. One person said they'd sit in the closet, listen to loud music and pout. Obviously, they're not very helpful. They're not going to get you anywhere closer to where you want to be.
It's a very victim approach to dealing with the times when you get slapped up, which inevitably happens to everyone. And you compare that to the growth mindset. These people said things along the lines of, I need to try harder in class. They saw this C plus as a challenge to actually find out where their weaknesses are and grow because of the whole experience, and then aim for the A plus still.
They might think about studying harder or taking a different approach. Maybe they'd pay their parking ticket and move on and resolve to be a little bit more careful next time. Maybe they'd think about, they'd look over the test and think, what do they do wrong, and try to get better. You got to realize this is like, it was a C plus, not an F. You got a parking ticket, your car didn't get stolen, your friend brushed you off, they didn't say they hated you. They're all very minor setbacks. But if you're coming into this situation with a fixed mindset, it seems like a complete, utterly crushing failure. Compared to the growth mindset, it's just a small representation one day in a whole life and can set you up on the next phase of your journey.
So the fixed mindset people, they just set up shop when they get the C plus. People in the growth mindset, they actually see the C plus as, interestingly, almost a positive thing, seeing it as a challenge that they can actually thrive upon, and they seek situations where they've got enough resistance that actually makes them not get the highest possible grade. They're putting themselves in those learning circumstances. There's a good friend of yours here, our show, Mia Hamm, the greatest female soccer star of all time. She says, all my life I've been playing above, challenging myself with bigger, older, more skillful, more experienced players. And I think we've all got this choice now. What level do you want to play at? Are you happy with the level you're at now? Or are you someone who wants to always move to that next level, next level, next level? And eventually, if you've got that attitude and the mindset, you're going to get challenged every now and then, and you're inevitably going to get a B, C, D, or an E. And that's just part of the game when you go into the higher levels. And next is what you react to when you get that bad grade. Are you going to be someone with the growth mindset, find out where your weaknesses are, learn from it, and then move to the next level and have that and keep that momentum throughout all the challenges that are on the road ahead?
Another time the two different mindsets pop up in the way that they differ in how you view yourself is, when do you feel smart? Do you feel smart when you're flawless, or do you feel smart when you're learning? If you're saying things like, I feel smart when I don't make any mistakes, when I finish something fast and it's perfect, or I feel smart when I do something and it feels easy for me but other people can't do it, they're all fixed mindset types of things. I think I say a few of those, that I like to be able to do stuff when other people can't, but that's a very fixed mindset. The growth mindset, they feel smart when there's something really, really hard. They try really hard. They can't do it, but then eventually they start to understand it. Or when they start to work at things and they learn to do something that they couldn't do before. The people in the growth mindset feel smart when they're learning, not when they're flawless.
Yeah, I think through reading this book, you do find out a few situations where you're in the fixed mindset. For me, it was when I was doing learning and studying through university. So when the material is really hard, the people in the fixed mindset, what they'll do, and this is what I did, is you read it over and over again. You memorize certain sentences and paragraphs and everything. So you basically rote learning for the exam, just purely to get the good grade, so you don't look vulnerable getting the C or the D or the E or whatever. You're aiming for the short-term A+, and then the next day you forget the whole thing because it's, the time frame's only one day for this learning. People in the growth mindset, they'll probably open themselves up in the short term to get the lower grade and actually learn the fundamental principles behind what the course material is actually trying to study. And over the long term, obviously they're going to be much better off because of the course, because they're doing real learning, not just hiding their own flaws and their weaknesses. You didn't do that, did you? You got a pretty good score, which you're probably about to drop.
I wasn't going to, but now that you mention it, I did get a very good score. But I was actually thinking, like, obviously the growth mindset is good, the fixed mindset is bad. We probably all like to think that we've got the growth mindset, but reading the book was a good opener to think of some fixed mindsets that I had over the time. During year 12, like the final year of high school, the big tests that you have to study for and get the perfect score for, I remember doing 846 hours of study.
Wow.
And that's almost like, I think like could be like a growth mindset thing, saying like that, I did all these hours of study, but at the same time, it's probably a bit fixed mindset as well to prove that, I was the one doing the most study almost.
Yeah, that's interesting. At my school, you copped shit for the longer you studied. Yeah. So it probably goes into that. Probably goes into that popular culture idea that if you're really smart, you don't actually need to study. So everyone was like playing study down, like, oh yeah, you can tell you do 6-7 hours study the night before, but on game day, you just roll in with your hair out and you're just like, oh, what's this? It's an exam. I've got an exam today. And you just act like you're just flying through.
I love everyone was always walking around like, oh, I'm so screwed for this test. I didn't study.
Yeah.
And they'd smash the A+ when they clearly studied. And it's just like weird that you don't like to say you studied. I think another issue I had was like, I'd wake up every morning at 6 a.m. and do an hour of maths. But again, I think it was almost fixed mindset the way I was doing it, because it wasn't like I was trying to learn new things. It was just like I was going through the, question 2A, 2B, 2C, 2D. It was like all variants of the same question, doing them over and over, slightly different, and trying to feel smart because I was able to do the same thing over and over, as opposed to truly learning something new. Man, another one where I've got a very fixed mindset is artistic ability. Like just thinking that I'm not a good drawer. Other people are just good artists and I just don't have it. That's an extremely fixed mindset thing to do. She had a study in the book and a few picture examples of people doing a self-portrait of themselves, and it looks like a 7-year-old kid drew it. And then they took a 5-day drawing course, and then they did a self-portrait of themselves. It looks like almost like gallery-worthy,
really
high-level artist, sort of like really, really perfect looking with different features and different like tones and different perspectives, and they look like a genuine piece of art. And that's like after a 5-day course. And I'm just sitting here like, nah, I'm not good at drawing, when really I've never tried, I've never practiced, I've never taken a course. And so that's an extremely fixed mindset thing to think.
Now you suck at art.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, imagine the people who are much younger and they really buy into the identity of the fixed mindset. There's a lot of people probably like 7 or 8 or 9 years old who buy into this idea like, I'm not good at maths, or I'm not good at art. For me, it's I'm not good at music. And then if you buy into that identity at such a young age with a fixed mindset, you really got no opportunities to grow in that area whatsoever. So it's almost like it is a self-fulfilling prophecy that you're always going to suck at it, mainly because you've bought into this identity.
Yeah, most certainly. And these mindsets, they completely shift the meaning of effort. So with the fixed mindset, high effort is extremely risky, because as we said, if you're really good at something, you don't need to put in effort. You should just naturally be good. So, the genius shouldn't need to do any more study because they should just know it naturally, or the gifted football player doesn't need to train because they're just naturally good at it.
Yeah, effort robs you of excuses completely. I remember when I used to play FIFA as well, I'd if I was down 2-0, I'd deliberately just start doing stupid shit and lose 5-0, so I wouldn't actually try to win. I'd deliberately do that, because if you actually try really hard at what you're doing and you lose, then that's actually risky to your identity.
Yeah, if you're in the fixed mindset, that effort robs you of the excuses, in the sense that if you don't try, then you always could have been. Like, I was a really good footy player when I was a kid. I could have made the AFL. Or I was like really smart. I could have gone to Harvard. Or like I was really clever and I had these great ideas and I could have invented this cool product. If you don't try and you never actually have a crack at anything, you always could have been. You've always got the excuse that, yeah, I could have done that, but I didn't try hard enough. And that's a very fixed mindset thing to do.
Contrast that with the growth mindset. For them, the risk isn't in high effort. The risk is actually in low effort, because they understand where the low effort leads them to. You're not going to develop and cultivate any skills in the long term. So they're not actually going to achieve what they actually want to set out to achieve, and really go through all the different levels that they need to get there along the way.
Dweck says that I could have been is really comforting to the fixed mindset. I could have been the NFL superstar, but I didn't really try. But in the growth mindset, I could have been is heartbreaking, because Dweck says that in the growth mindset, you realize that through effort, you get better. And she says that it's almost inconceivable to want something badly, to think you have a chance to achieve it, and then do nothing about it. So that's like that heartbreakingness is, I could have been this, but I didn't try hard enough. That's very bad for the growth mindset person.
So if you're listening now, and say if you're a parent or a teacher or you're a mentor of anybody, obviously one of the things that you're going to be looking to do is really put the people that you're parenting or whatever on the track of the growth mindset in any way you can. So Carol's got a very good study here that shows that it shows a really counterintuitive way of actually putting people on the right track.
What they did in this study was they gave a bunch of teenagers 10 pretty difficult IQ problems, and half the group got praised for their talent. So they'd say things at the end like, wow, you got 7 right, you must be really smart at this. So you're putting them you've got some kind of innate talent or smartness or ability. The other half, they praised them for their effort. They said, wow, you got 7 right. You must have tried really hard and really worked at these problems to get them right. So they're putting them on 2 different tracks. These people were randomly assigned. It was just a half-half. And at the start, both groups were obviously pretty much equal. As in, they were both getting around 6, 7, 8 out of 10. But what they did was when they were offered a chance to try the similar challenge again, the people who were in the smart, talented bucket, they didn't want to try it again because they were sort of risking their label then. They'd been labeled as smart, they'd been labeled as talented. Another test just means that they were vulnerable to lose that label. Contrast it to the people who were praised for their effort, 90% of them wanted to try it again. If they're praised for their effort, then the whole point is to try it again, get better, put in more effort next time.
And the other thing they found was that 40% of the people who had their ability praised and not their effort, they were actually lying about their scores. Always, obviously, in one direction, lying to just keep up with that identity that they were actually good. So it has the absolute opposite effect. Telling children that they're smart in the end made them feel and act dumber, but claim they were smarter.
So it's a vitally important thing to consider if you're a parent, a teacher, a coach, a boss. The small things that you say can really impact someone's performance. If you're praising a student or a player for their ability, it really puts them on the path of not wanting to take any risks and just wanting to prove themselves over and over. Compare that to if you're praising them for their effort, then they're willing to take some risks, they're willing to learn, they're willing to develop, they're willing to grow themselves. So maybe if you've got a kid who comes home from class and they've got an A on their maths test, don't say, oh, that's good job, little Johnny, you are really smart at maths. Say, oh, good job, little Johnny, you must have really studied hard and really practiced for this test.
Yeah, I think that's something that really it's very rare to see when it comes to parenting. It's there's always a lot of excitement, and you just want to make the kid feel validated and everything. And I think you just always just gravitate towards just praising how good they are and how smart they are and whatnot.
It's probably even telling the other parents as well.
Yeah,
little Susie got an A+ on a science test compared to little Susie studied for 2 hours last night.
It's always Susie when we're making up names. Carol Dweck talks about the implications of all this through business. She says the talent mindset is the new orthodoxy of American management, and this is the case around the world. Modern management has this obsession with talent, doing all the big psychometric testing and all that, and looking for these innate abilities and IQ as the markers for them to come in and give their organisation success.
So if we look at Enron as a case study in the fixed mindset, what Enron did was they recruited big talent. They took all the people with the fancy degrees. And of course, that's not bad in itself. You want smart, talented people to work for you. They paid big salaries and big bonuses, which again is not a bad thing by itself. But what they did was they put complete faith in talent, and that basically forced everyone into the fixed mindset. So by building up this culture in the workplace that worship talent, they were forcing their employees to always look and act talented. If that's what they valued as the most important thing, then people are always going to be trying to prove themselves.
Remember the study from earlier where 40% of the students lied about their scores in the fixed mindset when they were praised for their talent, not ability. They're always lying in the one direction, obviously. It was a very similar thing for Enron, a culture of lying about their results and everything because it was inconceivable for them to really show that they were vulnerable to some failures and therefore didn't have the ability to learn from all their weaknesses either.
Everyone's going to be playing it safe in this culture. They're not going to be trying new things, proposing new ideas that might not work. They're going to be playing it safe and boring. They're not going to be taking really any risks. They're not willing to risk their own status. They're not willing to try something that could be really good but could be a complete flop. So these are all the types of things that Enron has basically forced or channeled their people into. And we all know what happened to Enron. It went bust, went to zero, went bankrupt, and so obviously was a very poor outcome.
Yeah, big Kenny Lay, he was a CEO. He considered himself the great visionary, looking down his nose at all the people below him at the same time. So it really runs from the top, the growth mindset leaders, and they're the ones that provide the culture for everybody to grow and develop. So the growth mindset leaders, the ones who are superstars, they start with a belief in human potential and development, and they also believe in their own development and then all the people around them and below them and everywhere. So instead of using the company as a vehicle for their greatness, they use it as an engine for growth for themselves and for all the employees within it. So true self-confidence is actually the courage to be open, to welcome change and the new ideas, like you were saying, and revealing your vulnerabilities regardless of where the source is. It's not reflected in the title, the expensive suit, the fancy car, the stock price, the series of acquisitions that you're going through. It's really reflected in your mindset and your readiness to grow.
So Dweck, so far we've talked about the mindsets, we've talked about how they apply to school and learning and effort and now business, and it also applies to sports as well. And one big famous example is Billy Beane, who in high school, he was an absolute superstar. He was a higher scoring player on the basketball team. He was a quarterback of the football team. He batted 500 in baseball. So he was very clearly talented. He was the superstar among all of his peers. He was going to the best colleges. But what happened was when he stepped up from high school to college, to the minor leagues, and eventually to the major leagues in baseball, things really just got worse for him because he was this superstar, he was this hero, he was this natural, talented god of sport. Every time he stepped up to the plate was just an opportunity for humiliation. And every time he struck out, he completely went to pieces. He had no way of dealing with failure because what that strikeout did was it shifted one failure of action to an identity that he was a failure, that he wasn't as good as he thought he was.
Yeah, I had a bit of a Billy Beane special recently as well in the fixed mindset, I'd say, with jiu-jitsu until I realised it and opened myself up. But I've stopped doing jiu-jitsu. But for a while, for 4 months when I was doing it, my first way I was tapping people out and beating them, I'm a big, heavy boy. I just get all my body weight on top of them and then just like crush them. And because there's no weight classes when you train, I'm against 60 kilo and some females, but I'd always just use all my body weight, get their arm and just kind of get the triangle and the choke in and get my first taps. And
just
that was
crush those 45-year-old, 16-year-old girls.
Yeah, there was 80-year-olds there I was crushing. But once you get the first tap, you feel pretty good about yourself. But over time, because that was my only thing I could go to, I didn't learn anything new. So any other situation, I had no ability to grow for this exact same thing.
Yeah, I like it. And it's like Billy Beane, he never tried to fix his problems because he was this superstar. The idea is that if you're training, it means you're not good enough yet. He wasn't seeking advice from his coaches. He was never trying to analyze his deficiencies and weaknesses. And really, this massive potential turned into a big flop. And I think footy, I've got a few excuses as well. I was picked for some of the early rep teams, mainly because I was super, super tall, much taller than all the other 16-year-old kids. But I think I fell into that category of, I didn't try. I could have been the superstar, but I didn't really try hard enough. So I'm sticking with that fixed mindset of I could have been.
You still got it now.
I could have been. I could have been, man.
Well, I hate to break it to you. It's probably pretty late for you to make it.
It's game over.
It's game over now. Tell you who is a bit of an out and right superstar with the growth mindset is Big MJ, Michael Jordan, not MJ DeMarco if you're listening. He's pretty good as well.
Yeah.
He's a superstar as well. But Michael Jordan actually wasn't a natural like we think he is today. He was probably the hardest working athlete in the history of sport, according to Carroll. MJ was actually cut from his high school team when he was 15 or 16 years old. Unbelievable, isn't it? 16-year-old. Only 10 years later, he's probably the best player of all time. He didn't even get recruited for college, the one he wanted to play for, Carolina State. So at one stage in his career, there was, if you were outside looking in, you think MJ, you got no future in b-ball, mate. Move on. Go and become a lawyer or a dancer.
The two very different options that he could have taken. But what happened was when he got cut from that high school team, he went home, he was devastated. But his mum said to him, stop moping. You got to get back out there, get back on the court, discipline yourself. So MJ switched that around. He was leaving the house at 6 a.m. to go and practice basketball. If the team ever lost a game, he'd stick around for a few hours practicing his shooting afterwards. He switched to that discipline, that effort, that constant improvement, always trying to seek out his weaknesses and improve them.
So in the growth mindset, again, he actually embraces his failures. He sees them as just inevitable on his journey through the different levels that he went through. There's that famous ad he did for Nike where he said, I've missed more than 9,000 shots. I've lost almost 300 games, 26 tires. I've been trusted with a game-winning shot and I've missed. And you can be sure after every time he went back and he missed that winning shot and all that, he went back to the court and kept practicing to become better. So next time he improves the probability that he'll actually make it.
So that's business and sport. Mindsets also apply to relationships. And of course, the path to true love maybe isn't so smooth. It's often a few ups and downs, a bit of disappointment, a bit of heartbreak. If you think about your whole life's journey towards eventually finding a strong relationship, and the mindsets can have a massive impact on this journey.
Yeah, if you think about it, I think everyone I know has been smacked up by a relationship at some stage, gone through some serious heartbreak. So it's part of the human experience. I don't think you've had one
think I'm
partner all the way through.
One and done, yeah.
Yeah, shit.
I read the game and I was just got too good.
But for most people, they get slapped up and they get hurt in some kind of way. And I think how people react to that has a massive difference on their future relationships. I know some people, I've got some friends who their first relationship they went through 21, 22, 23 years old or whatever, massive heartbreak. And then 10 years later, you can see they're still not putting themselves in the vulnerable position that they're probably going to need to actually have a good relationship, because again, it's too scary and they don't want to have that vulnerability that they had before their first breakup.
So there are a few problems with bringing a fixed mindset to a relationship. The first big one is that you think that if you have to work at a relationship, then it probably wasn't meant to be. The fixed mindset says it should just work. You know, it should be fixed. It should be as it is. It should be just perfect from the beginning. And you think that if there's a few hiccups and a few little uncomfortable things along the way and you have to work and you have to constantly try to improve and grow better together, then maybe it's just the wrong relationship for you.
Yeah, the fixed mindset people believe that your qualities are fixed, your partner's qualities fixed, and the relationship's qualities are fixed. So at the beginning, if there's not sparks and it just stays sparks the whole entire time all the way through, as nothing can grow and nothing can change, then there's really no hope for the relationship moving forward at all.
The fixed mindsetters think it's just magic. It's all a fairy tale. It's like Sleeping Beauty, being awoken from the kiss. You see the person for the first time, love at first sight, and that's it, happily ever after.
There's a quote by Johnny Gottman, who's the foremost relationship researcher in the world.
Is he?
I
haven't heard of him, but we'll take Dweck's word for it.
We'll take Dweck's word for it. But
could be a bloke from the pub.
Yeah, I think it's a bloke from the pub, just to go with it. But what Johnny says is every marriage demands an effort to keep it on the right track. There is a constant tension between the forces that hold you together and pull you apart. I think that's a good, realistic thing to think about.
Yeah, so obviously bringing a growth mindset to a relationship means that you're just not expecting perfection at every moment of every day of every year. You're recognizing that in any relationship, there are going to be the hiccups, there are going to be the ups and downs, and you need to work together to constantly build it, grow the relationship, make it better. It's not just perfect from the start and forever.
The second problem with the fixed mindset is that problems indicate character flaws.
So bringing that fixed mindset, you look at your partner, you're expecting them to be perfect. You realize that, hang on, if they do something wrong, it's maybe they're not the person that you think they were. If you're coming in with a fixed mindset and viewing all skills and all traits as fixed and carved in stone, then anything that your partner does wrong, you're going to think less of them.
Yeah, if they come in and they do something that really pisses you off, I think Carol says in the book she never used to get good presents from her partner or something. It really got her fucking got her fucking it got her pretty wild, Carol. She didn't really like that whatsoever. So she said to him straight up, saying, "Hey, look, mate, really like presents. Get me a good one. I'm not vain, but this is something you suck at, and you need to improve your present giving to me to make me feel more, verified."
Yeah. Maybe that was her love language, was receiving gifts, just as a throwback to an earlier episode. Mate, I was probably am still pretty horrendous. I haven't lived down that Alison's first birthday when we were together, I didn't get her a present at all.
Oof.
And so we'd been together 8 days, but I haven't lived that one down yet.
I don't do presents.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, mate, that's a good way out of it.
At all.
Mate, one other important thing with relationships is that depending on the mindset that you bring into it, you're going to choose very different, could be a romantic partner or it could be just friends as well. If you're in the fixed mindset, you're going to pick the friends that are going to be praising you, they're going to make you feel good. Maybe you're going to pick people who are slightly less good than you so you feel good about yourself. Contrast that to the growth mindset. You're going to be picking friends and partners who are going to challenge you, who are going to make you grow, who are going to stretch you, who are going to try to improve you.
Yeah, if you've got a relationship that's embedded in the growth mindset, when you have these differences and these little challenges, these things are opportunities to actually grow your relationship, not something to be avoided, which again, like the different sections we've covered in this episode, leads down two completely different paths in the very long run.
So hopefully you've obviously realized by now the fixed mindset is bad, the growth mindset is good. You got to recognize when things in your life, the thoughts that you have about yourself and your own abilities, start to recognize when you're thinking fixed thoughts and when you're thinking growth thoughts. So in one world, the fixed world, success is about proving you're smart or talented. It's all about validating yourself, compared to the growth mindset, where it's all about stretching yourself, learning something new, and it's all about developing yourself.
In one world or in one path, failure is about having a setback. It's getting a bad grade, losing a tournament, getting fired, getting rejected. It means you're not talented and you're not that smart. In the other world, failure comes from not growing, not reaching the things you value, and it means not fulfilling your potential.
In one world, effort is a bad thing. It means you're not smart or talented, because if you were, you wouldn't need to practice. In the other world, effort is exactly what makes you talented.
So we've all got a choice. Mindsets are just beliefs. They're powerful beliefs, but there's something in your mind and you can change your mind.